Hello, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3, and in this particular video, I want to talk about PhD student debt and how to school, particularly in business, because that's what I know, with little debt going forward. If you don't know, I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity platform. It's a sharing economy proofreading platform because I wanted to help out other people as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me along the way, so I want to give back as much as I possibly can and figure out a way that it was scalable. How do you actually get through graduate school without student debt? Can you actually do it? First of all, yes. I know from firsthand experience you could do it. I went through the vast majority of my graduate school as well as my undergraduate program with not that much debt. At the end of it, it was still painful, and it was still, it was still very stressful, and that's really what I want to emphasize. It might seem like it's something that's easy to sort of not do that route and sort of not worry about debt and how much it's actually going to cost. But once you're done, you have to pay it back, and it was incredibly stressful for me, and I didn't realize how stressful it was until I actually paid it off. And then I realized, wow, that there was actually a lot of weight on my shoulders during the whole time that I had it, and I didn't realize that. So I want to make sure that you're well aware of kind of the things that I learned along the way in terms of paying for your graduate school program, particularly those that are interested in doing a doctorate or going and getting a DBA or something like that, or a PhD going forward, right? There's lots of routes to do. First of all, the biggest thing to reduce the amount of debt for you going forward is thinking about the particular school that you're interested in going to, and the program is going to make a big difference, particularly at the master's level. At the PhD level, there is an executive doctorate and a DBA program. They're very expensive, and usually I would probably recommend only, it would be a great sort of route if you've already established yourself and you're thinking of getting a program, going into a doctorate that way, because it's so expensive compared to, the alternative, which is the PhD. With a master's program, the MBA is usually really expensive going forward, compared to what the research masters is. So there's research masters all over the country, any country. There's lots of them. I did mine in Canada at the University of Waterloo. It was a great school. And, I learned a lot doing that. And it was, research masters means you do like a thesis for a year. And the cost of it was significantly less than doing an MBA. And it didn't, for a research route, it actually gave me an advantage. It didn't hurt me in any sort of way. I don't think, but in terms of opportunities in the working world, right, in industry, an MBA probably gives you a few more opportunities. But then there's huge cost variance in terms of the MBA program that you actually choose to go forward. So the biggest factor in order to determine how much debt you're actually going to get is just choosing the particular school that you're going to go to, and they vary widely. So I'd highly recommend for you to look into them. So for example, if you are in the United States or if you're in Canada or wherever it is, look at programs that are within state or within province. Those are going to make a really big difference in terms of if you can't afford it. So me, I came from my family. There was 5 of us, and it was only my dad that was working at the time. He did okay, but he was kind of like a blue collar worker, right? They call it. He worked in a pulp and paper mill, and my parents didn't have the money for that, so I had to sort of figure out how to get through these programs with just my old noggin, right? And so I went through my undergrad for the most part, debt free, and the way I did that was co-op programs. There's a great program at the University of Waterloo. And some schools will have that too, where you work for a bit and then you go back to school. It's actually really well respected in Canada. But yeah, there's lots of different programs that are like that. And in my master's program, I was able to get some scholarships, and it wasn't that expensive. My PhD, I had stipends for the most of it, and as well as provincial and national scholarships to get through, and those very much helped. It was only until the last little bit, I think it was year 6 and 7, where there was no funding. at all, and I accumulated some debt to go through. And I also, sort of full disclosure, my wife was working at the time as well. She was a professional, but at the same time, we were um, it didn't help things in any sort of way in terms of me sort of knowing that this was costing a lot of money and this was all sort of me and my responsibility going forward with that. And it was really, it was very stressful. Let's just leave it at that. And for those of you who are married and dealing with this kind of stuff, you know exactly what I'm talking about when you're getting a doctorate. So the first thing, or the third thing I think is important, is just to try to live within the means of your stipend, right? So for us, because my wife is working, we're able to get, a car and things like that. But if it was just me, I would probably have lived very close to the university with an apartment, and tried to reduce the cost as much as possible. I know that there's some schools it is difficult to do that, right? So in New York, right, there's some really great schools in New York or in California, great schools that are out there that I'd highly recommend that you look at, but then you have to also weigh the cost of living to live at those particular places, right? And it's up to you if you're going to choose those programs going forward, but you really have to consider that if you're just not in your budget, right? You have to think about those. It might not be the best thing for you if you get an offer from Columbia, for example, and then another offer from University of South Carolina. Well, you have to sort of weigh those in terms of the cost of living at going to those particular places if you can't afford it, right? And it just depends on what your lifestyle is and what you have in terms of your resources. Some people actually are pretty well off when they go into these things for whatever reasons. Their parents, maybe they worked as an MBA for a while, and they're well off, so it doesn't matter to them, and that's okay. I met a lot of people that are like that, and that's totally fine. But you have to, if you're like myself, that I sort of had to consider that strongly in terms of where we are going to live and whatnot. So just know that in terms of the lifestyle. Um, then the fourth thing is, and it really helps to look at university or national scholarships, right? So that means you're going to have to do very well on whatever entrance tests that you're looking at, or at the university level, you're going to have to shine as much as you possibly can. The national scholarships are really great in a lot of schools like Canada, the Netherlands, Germany, all those kind of places. They have wonderful, wonderful national scholarships that you can get. And it's not unusual to get these particular scholarships. And there's also, I want to point out that you should also think about looking kind of broadly in terms of the scholarships that you can get. So at the university level, it's pretty easy. Often it's just based on your entrance scores. But like for a PhD, for example, or going in and doing an MBA, for example, you can usually get really weird scholarships under, maybe it's your ethnicity. I'm not saying that your ethnicity is weird, but just like there's very specific, is what I'm saying. Weird meaning and very specific or unusual scholarships that you wouldn't have thought about, right? So you think about going to, maybe there's one based on your ethnicity, or maybe for me, there was based on my parents' vocation. That was kind of unusual at the undergrad level. Things like that. That was really important going forward in terms of helping with getting scholarships. So a fifth thing that I think is important for you, particularly if you're doing the research route, is think about ways to leverage your program in terms of, is think about leveraging your program of study and thinking about how you can get small wins from the thing that you're working from, and how you can leverage what you're currently doing and look for those small wins where it's not going to actually take it's not going to take a lot of time for you to apply for something. So if it takes a day, I usually say just apply for it. That is okay. And the last thing, the number 6, is just don't avoid the funding opportunities that are kind of really open. I learned this a couple of times where they say, or it's contingent on things, where if you do this, you can get this, or at some point in the future, you might get this opportunity. Those are not very good. I know you have to be entrepreneurial, when you're doing particularly a doctorate program in terms of finding funding and things like that. But often those don't work out, and you're left in sort of in limbo, or you pursued and wasted a tremendous amount of time pursuing something that wasn't going to pan out. So I personally, at this moment, like to have a lot more secured, closed packages. So for me, if you're really desperate at the PhD level, then you could teach, but look for sort of things that are sort of closed or condensed as much as possible with teaching. Or if maybe there's some consulting gig, look for the consulting gig that's going to take you like 3 days, and then it's going to pay you enough that it's going to sort of keep you going, right? And you don't want to look for ones that this is going to be an ongoing thing. Those are going to be time sucks, or ones that are going to be contingent on if you do a good job, you're going to get money, or we're going to pay you for something like that. Those never work out like you would. And, usually those people are kind of, the people that sort of tell you that kind of stuff are, um, they're probably leading you in the wrong direction, I think, going forward, unless they're very trustworthy. And, in those cases, you can ask around and see who's very, very trustworthy. And in that, I'm just being open and honest just to protect you going forward, because I know that there's these opportunities out there, people that are like that, that you just be careful, is what I'm saying, and protect yourself and your time as much as you can, and look for those closed package deals. Those are going to be very, very helpful going forward, rather than kind of the open, if you do this, then this will happen, right? Like, those just won't work out very well in the long run. So that's all I wanted to talk about. Hopefully that was helpful for you in terms of making your decision and sort of getting through graduate school. So that's it. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.